What if the first few minutes after you wake up are quietly shaping your entire day, long before you ever realize it is happening? Think about how your morning actually begins. Before your feet even touch the floor, something has already reached for your attention. It is usually the phone, or the worry that never fully went to sleep, the one that was waiting by the bed for you to wake up so it could start talking again. Or yesterday's unfinished problems, standing in line, ready to hand themselves back to you before you've taken a single breath. And here is the quiet truth almost no one notices. Whatever gets your attention first is usually what gets your mind next. Whatever speaks first starts to steer. That low hum of pressure, that reflex to reach for the screen, that list of everything you did not get done, they do not just sit there politely. They take the wheel. And a day steered by fear from the very first minute rarely becomes a day of peace. So let me put the real question in front of you, the one this whole prayer is built around. Something is going to be first in your morning. Something always is. The only question is whether it will be God or everything you are afraid of. Because there is another way to open your eyes. Not summoning God in panic halfway through the afternoon when everything has already gone sideways. Not calling on Him as a last resort after your own strength has run dry and the day has already beaten you. Inviting Him in first, not after the anxiety begins, not after the problem appears. First, that is the difference most people never experience. It is not that they lose anything, it is that they begin the entire day without realizing the peace they were chasing, the direction they were missing, the steadying presence they kept reaching for in all the wrong places was already available to them the very first moment. The invitation was open. They just walked past it, straight into the noise, and spent the day trying to find somewhere else what was offered to them for free at sunrise. You do not have to start there. You are going to begin this day differently. Before you ask God to fix anything, before you hand Him the list, before you even explain what you are worried about, you're going to give Him the first moments of it. You're going to let Him be the first voice you listen to instead of the last voice you call. And before this prayer is over, I want to show you what actually changes when God becomes the first voice in your morning instead of the last one. What happens to a day that begins in His hands instead of your own? Because the change is real, and it starts sooner than you think. Out of one of the darkest moments in the Bible came one of the most hopeful sentences ever put on a page. The book is called Lamentations, traditionally associated with Jeremiah, and it was born from the devastation of Jerusalem. The city had fallen, the temple was destroyed, the walls were rubble, and families had been killed or carried into exile. It is a book so heavy with grief that its very name means weeping. Whoever held the pen was not writing poetry from a comfortable chair. He was writing from the rubble. If anyone had earned the right to say that hope was finished, it was this voice, in that moment, surrounded by that much loss. And right in the middle of one of Scripture's darkest passages, something turns. Almost like the sun coming up over a battlefield that is still smoking. He writes that the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, that His mercies never come to an end, that they are new every morning. And then he says 4 words that should stop you where you stand. Great is your faithfulness. Notice when those words were written, not from a mountaintop, not after the rescue, with the city rebuilt and the enemy defeated and everything restored. They were written while the ruins were still warm, with no evidence yet that anything was going to be okay. Nothing had improved. And still, somehow, he reached for the one thing the fire had not been able to burn. The mercy of God, arriving fresh, the way it always had, the way it always would, one morning at a time. He could not see the future. He could only see the morning in front of him. And somehow, that morning still carried enough mercy to keep hope alive. That is the promise waiting for you before you are even fully awake, not a mercy you have to earn by getting your morning routine exactly right, not a grace that runs out if you sleep in or miss a day or wake up in a mood too dark to pray. A mercy that is new every single morning, because that is simply who God is. He does not ration his kindness. He does not hand you the tired leftovers of yesterday and tell you to make them stretch. Every sunrise carries his mercy with it, whether you earned the last one or not, whether you noticed the last one or not. But here is what that voice in the rubble understood that most of us forget. Mercy that is new every morning is a mercy you can meet every morning. It is always there. The question is whether you turn toward it early or stumble past it in the rush and go looking for peace everywhere else. Think about what you normally do with that first moment. You wake up already behind, already bracing for impact, already counting the things that could go wrong. You reach for the thing that scares you before you reach for the one who steadies you. You let the headlines in before you let God in. And by the time you finally think to pray, hours have passed, the tone of the day is already set, and you are asking God to help you climb out of something you fell into on your own. None of that means grace has a deadline. God is not less available at noon than he was at dawn, and you can meet him in the middle of a terrible morning and everything can begin to change from that moment on. But there is something about handing him the day before it starts, rather than after it has already knocked you down. And meeting him is simpler than you have been led to believe. It does not require an hour on your knees or the perfect words in the perfect order. It can begin with a single honest sentence spoken into the quiet before you even sit up. God, before I listen to anything else this morning, I want to hear from you first. That one sentence may not change everything waiting for you today, but it can change the posture you carry into it. It puts the first attention of your day in the right place, and a heart that begins the morning leaning on God tends to keep leaning on him through every hard hour that follows. The ruins had taken almost everything, but they had not taken the morning. That was the one thing the fire could not reach. The buildings burned, the walls fell, the future went dark, and still the sun came up, and still the mercy came with it. And that same unreachable mercy is available to you right now, before the noise, before the rushing, before the day has a chance to define itself without him. New mercy, fresh grace. A faithfulness that is still there, no matter what yesterday looked like, no matter how far from him you feel this morning. So hear this clearly, because it is the heart of everything. Morning prayer does not guarantee an easier day. It gives you a different place to stand inside the day you actually have. The circumstances waiting for you may not move an inch, but the person walking into them can be completely different. Fear no longer gets the first word. Pressure no longer sets the posture. That is what it means to watch your day transform. Not that the storm disappears, but that you stop facing it alone. The busiest person who ever lived still made time to be alone with God before the sun came up. Think about that. There's a scene early in the Gospel of Mark where Jesus has just had one of the most demanding stretches of his entire ministry. The night before, the whole town had gathered at the door. Mark says the entire city crowded around the house, bringing the sick, the desperate, the broken, and he healed them late into the night. He had every reason to sleep in. He had earned the rest. The crowd would be back, the needs would be endless, and no one would have blamed him for staying under the covers a little longer. Instead, Mark tells us that very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he got up, left the house, and went to a solitary place to pray. Before the crowd, before the demands, before the noise of another impossible day. He went and found his Father first. Let that sink in for a second. If anyone could have skipped the morning prayer, it was him. He was the Son of God. If anyone had the strength to run a day on his own power, it was him. And yet, he is the one who models the very thing we keep telling ourselves we are too busy for. He did not treat time with the Father as a luxury for slow mornings. He treated it as the source he drew from before he gave anything away. And notice the detail Mark includes. While it was still dark, not after the sun was comfortably up, not after breakfast once the day was already moving, in the dark, in the quiet, in the part of the morning that belongs to no one but you and God. He guarded that space fiercely because he knew what was coming. He knew the crowd would find him. In fact, they did. The disciples came looking and said, "Everyone is searching for you." The pull of the day was already reaching for him. But by the time it did, he had already been with the Father. He met the demands from a full place instead of an empty one. That is the pattern hiding in plain sight. Jesus did not pray in the morning because his life was calm and uncomplicated. He prayed in the morning because it was not. The pressure was the reason, not the obstacle. The heavier the day ahead, the more he needed to begin it in the presence of the one who sent him. Now, turn that toward your own life. You tell yourself you will pray when things settle down, when the season gets easier, when the kids are older, when the job is steadier, when the schedule finally loosens its grip. But that morning may never come. The demands do not wait for you to be ready, and they do not politely pause while you get your spiritual footing. They crowd the door the moment you wake, exactly like they crowded his. And if you are honest, the busiest seasons are the very ones where prayer is the first thing to fall off the list. It feels backward, but it is almost automatic. The more there is to do, the less time there seems to be to stop and pray. So you cut the one thing that would have steadied you and pour yourself straight into the storm. You treat prayer like a reward you get once the work is done, instead of the strength you need before the work begins. And then you wonder why you feel so depleted by 10 in the morning, why your patience is gone before noon, why the smallest thing sets you off. You've been running the whole day on a tank you never filled. Jesus did the opposite. He filled the tank first. He drew from the Father before he poured out to the crowd, and because he drew first, there was always something to pour. That is the order the whole day depends on. Not because God will punish you for getting it wrong, but because you were simply never designed to give what you have not first received. So the question is, not whether your morning will be busy. It probably will be. The question is where you will draw your strength from before the busyness begins. Will you walk into the crowd running on empty, hoping to hold yourself together until lunch? Or will you do what he did and find the Father first, in the quiet, before the world starts pulling? Here's the freeing part. You do not need a solitary place on a hillside. You do not need an hour or a perfect setting or a silent house. The solitary place can be the edge of your bed before your feet hit the floor. It can be the first 60 seconds after your alarm before you reach for anything else. It can be a whispered sentence in the shower or a quiet moment in the car before you turn the key. The location was never the point. The order was the point. Him first, then the day. Because a life that begins in His presence carries something into the noise that a rushed life never will. Not the guarantee of an easy day, but the steadiness of a filled one, a quiet strength underneath everything. You stop meeting the world from your own thin reserves and start meeting it from His. And that quietly changes everything about how you carry what the day hands you. Anxiety is not always loud. Most mornings it does not announce itself. It just sits down beside you before you're even awake and starts narrating the day in the worst possible voice. You know that voice. It runs the list before your eyes are open. It rehearses the conversation you are dreading. It reminds you of the bill, the diagnosis, the argument, the thing you cannot fix. It does not scream, it whispers. And the whisper is worse because you mistake it for your own thinking. You believe it. You get up already braced, already tense, already carrying a weight the day has not even handed you yet. There is a promise written for exactly that moment. The Apostle Paul wrote it from a prison cell, which matters, because he was not writing from a life free of trouble. He had every reason to be anxious and every right to it. And from that cell, he wrote that you should be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and honest asking. Bring your requests to God. And then he says what happens next. The peace of God, a peace that goes beyond anything the mind can understand, will guard your heart and your mind. Look closely at that word, guard. It is a military word. It is the picture of a soldier posted at a gate, standing watch, keeping out what should not get in. Paul is not describing a warm feeling. He is describing a guard placed over the two places anxiety attacks first, your heart and your mind. And that guard does not show up on its own. It shows up when you do the thing Paul says. You bring it to God. You hand Him the very thing you were about to carry alone. That is the exchange most of us never make. We wake up, we feel the weight, and we start problem solving in our own strength before we have said a single word to God. We turn the worry over and over, as if worrying hard enough will eventually solve it. It never does. Worry has never once fixed the thing it was worried about. It only rehearses the pain in advance so that you suffer the hard thing twice, once in your imagination and once in real life. And notice how much of what we rehearse never even happens. The mind is a terrible prophet. It predicts disasters that never arrive, plays out conversations that go nothing like we imagined, and drains us dry, preparing for versions of the day that never come to pass. You have done this 1,000 times. You lay awake bracing for something that, in the end, resolved itself, or turned out smaller than the monster your mind had built. And yet, the next morning, the voice is back, just as confident, narrating the next catastrophe as if its track record were perfect. It is not. It has been wrong more often than it has been right. But it speaks first, and first is loud, and so you believe it again. Prayer breaks that loop, not because it magically removes the problem, but because it moves the weight off your shoulders and onto His. When you name the fear out loud to God in the morning, something shifts. The fear stops being a private monster growing in the dark of your own mind and becomes something you have handed to someone stronger. You are no longer carrying it alone. And a fear you are not carrying alone is a fear that loses most of its grip. This is where the transformation the whole day is built on actually begins. Not in your circumstances changing, but in your grip on them loosening. The bill is still there. The diagnosis has not changed. The hard conversation is still coming. But you are walking towards all of it with a guard posted over your heart, with the weight redistributed, with your hands open instead of clenched. The problem did not shrink. You simply stopped facing it by yourself. And here is what makes the morning the right time for this exchange. If you make it before the day floods in, the guard is already at the gate when the pressure arrives. You are not scrambling to find peace in the middle of the chaos. You built the shelter before the storm, not during it. Anyone can try to pray once the panic has already set in, and God will meet you even there. But it is a very different thing to walk into the day already covered, already handed over, already leaning, than to go looking for God in a panic once the ground is already shaking under you. One is a scramble. The other is a shelter you stepped into on purpose while it was still quiet. So when the hard thing comes, and it will come, it does not find you undefended. It finds you already covered. So this morning, before you rehearse a single worst case, before you let that quiet narrating voice set the tone, try the exchange. Say it plainly. God, here is what I'm afraid of today. Here is the weight I woke up carrying. I am handing it to you before I carry it one more step. You may still feel the fear at first. That is normal. But you will be feeling it from a different place, with a guard at the gate and your hands finally open. Most days do not go wrong because of one big disaster. They go wrong because of 100 small turns, each one taken in a hurry, none of them thought through, all of them steering you somewhere you never actually chose to go. You react to the email instead of responding to it. You snap at the person who did not deserve it. You say yes to the thing you should have said no to. By evening, you are exhausted and cannot even point to why. You did not walk through the day walked through you. Reacting is not the same as living. There's an old prayer buried in the Psalms that speaks straight into this. The writer says, "Let me hear of your steadfast love in the morning, for in you I trust." And then, in the very next breath, he asks for the one thing every rushed and reactive person actually needs. Make me know the way I should go, for to you I lift up my soul. Notice the order again. In the morning. First, he asks to hear God's love, and then he asks to be shown the way. Direction requested at the start of the day before a single decision has been made. That is a kind of prayer most of us never think to pray. We ask God to bless our plans and fix our problems, but we rarely stop and ask Him before the day begins which way we should actually go. We assume we already know. And so we charge ahead on our own understanding and wonder why we keep ending up somewhere we did not want to be. There is a well-known line in Proverbs that lays it out plainly. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. Do not lean on your own understanding. That is a hard sentence for capable people, because our own understanding is exactly what got us this far. We are used to figuring it out. We are used to being the smartest planner in the room. And the invitation here is not to stop thinking, but to stop trusting your thinking as if it were the final word, to hold your plans with an open hand and let God adjust them. Here's what that looks like in a real morning. You do not just pray, "God, help me get through today." You pray, "God, order this day. Show me what actually matters and what only feels urgent. Put me in front of the people you want me to reach. Guard my mouth before I say the thing I cannot take back. Make the crooked places straight before I ever get to them. That is not a vague spiritual wish. That is you asking the one who can see the whole day to steer the parts of it you cannot see yet. And when you pray like that, something quiet happens under the surface of the day. You become harder to knock off course. The interruptions still come, but they do not own you the way they used to. You feel a check in your spirit before you send the angry message. You sense a nudge toward the person you would have walked right past. You catch yourself about to react, and instead you pause because you already handed the steering wheel to God this morning, and some part of you remembers that. You are not white-knuckling your way through the day anymore. You are being led through it. Think about how much of your energy normally goes into steering. Every decision second-guessed, every path chosen and then doubted, the constant low effort of managing an entire day by the strength of your own judgment. It is exhausting, precisely because you were never meant to carry the weight of the whole map alone. When you ask God to order the day, you're not becoming passive. You still make the choices, you still do the work. But you do it with the quiet confidence of someone who is not the only one watching the road. And direction is often subtle. It rarely arrives as a voice from the sky telling you exactly what to do. More often, it is a peace that settles on one option and lifts off another. A door that opens easily, or one that stays firmly shut no matter how hard you push. A conversation that lands in your path at exactly the right moment. You will not always recognize it as guidance while it is happening. You will often only see it looking back in the evening when you realize the day went somewhere better than the day you had planned and you were not the one who bent it there. This is another piece of what the word transform actually means. It does not always mean the day gets easier. Sometimes it means the day gets clearer. You stop drifting. You stop being pushed around by whatever shouts loudest. You move through the hours with a sense of direction that did not come from you. You asked for it at sunrise, and it was given. So before the decisions start today, before the first fork in the road, ask for the way. Not just strength to survive the day, but direction to walk it well. Say it simply. God, show me the way I should go today, because I do not want to lean on my own understanding one more time. Then, watch how differently a guided day unfolds compared to one you tried to navigate alone. You will find whatever you go looking for first thing in the morning. If you wake up scanning for what is wrong, your eyes will find it before your feet hit the floor. There is always something wrong to find. The bill that is due, the body that aches, the relationship that is strained. The mind is astonishingly good at locating the one broken thing in a room full of unbroken ones, and the morning is when it does its sharpest work. Before you have thanked God for a single thing, you've already inventoried the problems. And a heart that starts the day counting what is wrong walks into that day already poorer than it needs to be. There is a line in the Psalms so simple that most people race right past it. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Read it slowly. This is the day, not some future day when everything is finally fixed, not the day you have been waiting for when the season changes and the pressure lifts. This one, the ordinary, unfinished, still difficult day in front of you right now, the Lord made it, and the invitation is to rejoice in it before it has proven itself worthy of rejoicing. That is the part we miss. We think gratitude is a response to a good day. We wait to feel thankful until the day has earned it, until the good news comes, until the problem resolves. But the psalm flips the order completely. Gratitude comes first, not because you are pretending the hard things are not real, but because you're refusing to let them be the only things you see. There is another old instruction that says to enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Notice the word enter. Thanksgiving is the door you walk through to get into God's presence. And most of us, if we are honest, try to enter through a different door entirely, the door of complaint, the door of the list, the door of everything we need him to fix. We show up at the gate with our problems held out in front of us and wonder why the presence feels distant. Thanksgiving is the way in. It always was. So what would it change to begin the morning by naming what is right before you name what is wrong? Not a forced, fake positivity. Just honesty in the other direction for once. You woke up, your lungs are working. There is someone who loves you, even if they are far away right now. God has been faithful before, more times than you can count, and that faithfulness did not run out overnight. These things are as true as the problems. They are more true because they will outlast the problems. When you start there, the whole emotional weather of the morning shifts. The problems do not vanish, but they shrink back to their actual size instead of the enormous size your fear inflated them to overnight. You realize you are not standing in a life of pure lack. You are standing in a life that is a mixture, like every life, of hard things and good things, and you get to choose which ones you hand the microphone to first. Gratitude does not deny the hard things, it just refuses to let them do all the talking. And there is a reason the morning is so vulnerable to the opposite. When you first wake, your defenses are down. Whatever thought arrives first tends to set the emotional temperature for hours, and if you let it, that first thought will almost always be a worried one, because worry is louder and quicker than gratitude. Worry does not wait to be invited. Gratitude has to be chosen, reached for on purpose. That is exactly why naming it first, before the worry can grab the microphone, changes so much. You are not leaving the tone of your heart to chance. You are setting it while it is still soft enough to be set. And gratitude is not the same as denial. A grateful person is not pretending the bill is paid or the diagnosis is gone. Gratitude looks straight at the hard thing, does not flinch, and then says, "And yet God has been good to me, and He is good to me still." That small phrase, "and yet," is one of the most powerful things you can say in the morning. It holds both truths at once. The trouble is real, and the goodness is more real. This is one of the quietest and most powerful ways a morning transforms a day, not by changing your circumstances, but by changing what you're looking at. The person who begins the day thankful is simply harder to defeat. The complaints of the day do not land as hard on a grateful heart. The disappointments do not sink as deep, because you already established before the day began that God is good, that His mercy is real, and that this day, whatever it holds, is still a gift from His hand. So this morning, before you reach for the list of everything you need, try starting with a list of what you already have. Say it out loud if you can. God, before I ask you for anything, thank you. Thank you for this day you made. Thank you for the mercy I woke up inside of. Then, step into whatever comes next through the right door, the one Thanksgiving opens. When you strip everything else away, what God actually promises you in the morning is not a smooth day. It is Himself. We keep asking Him for the wrong gift. We ask for the obstacles to be removed, the road to be cleared, the hard people to be softened, the bad news to turn good. And sometimes He does move those things. But underneath every one of those requests is a deeper hunger we barely know how to name. We do not just want an easier life. We want to not be alone in the life we have. We want to know that someone bigger than the trouble is in the room with us. And that is the exact thing he promises, long before he promises anything about the trouble itself. There is a moment in the Bible where a weary leader named Moses is staring down an impossible assignment, and he tells God plainly that he will not go one step further unless God goes with him. He does not ask for a map. He does not ask for reinforcements or guarantees or a lighter load. He asks for the presence, and God answers with words that have carried exhausted people for thousands of years since. My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. Read that answer again, because it is the whole thing. God does not say, I will remove every obstacle. He does not say the assignment will get easier. He says, I will go with you. The promise was never a problem-free road. The promise was company on the road. And notice what comes attached to the presence: rest. Not the rest that comes when the work is finally finished, but a deeper rest that can exist even while the work is still hard, because you are no longer doing it by yourself. This is what ties every morning together. When you invite God into your morning, you are not booking a smoother schedule. You are welcoming a person into your day. The one who made you, who knows every hour ahead of you before you have lived it, who has never once left your side even on the mornings you forgot he was there. He is not a strategy for a better day. He is a presence for the day you actually have. Think about what that quietly rearranges. A problem faced alone is a very different thing from the same problem faced with someone beside you who is not afraid of it. Picture a child who has to walk through a dark room. Alone, the dark is enormous and full of threats. But holding a parent's hand, the very same dark, the very same room, the very same distance to the other side becomes something they can walk through without panic. Nothing about the room changed. Everything about the walk changed because they were not walking it alone. That is closer to what God offers your morning than any promise of an easier day. The room may stay dark, but you will not cross it by yourself. And that changes how you carry everything. The email that scared you is still in your inbox, but you open it holding a hand. The conversation you dreaded still has to happen, but you walk into it accompanied. The grief that is not lifted is still grief, but it is grief you are not bearing in isolation. This is why the presence matters more than the fix. A fixed problem helps you for a day. A God who never leaves helps you for a lifetime, through the problems that get fixed and the ones that never do. And His presence does not arrive only when you feel it. This matters because some mornings you will pray and feel nothing at all. No warmth, no lift, just the same tired heart and the same heavy day. Do not let that fool you. His presence was never based on your feelings. He was with the disciples in the boat while they panicked and thought He did not care. He was there the whole time, feelings or weather. His presence is the ground under the weather. On the mornings you feel Him, He is there. On the mornings you feel nothing, He is exactly as there as He was the day you wept with relief. The invitation you say yes to each morning is not a feeling. It is a fact you are choosing to stand on. If this is landing on you this morning, if something in you is loosening as you hear it, I want to ask you to do something simple before this prayer goes any further. Take 1 second and type Amen in the comments. Not as a formality, but as your own quiet way of saying, yes, I am inviting God into this day. I am not walking into it alone. That one word is you planting a flag, and if this message reached the tired place in you that needed it this morning, share it with someone you know is carrying a heavy morning of their own, because the person who comes to mind right now may be exactly who was supposed to hear this today. If you want more mornings that begin this way, subscribe, and turn on the bell so these prayers find you at the start of your day when they can actually do their work before the noise gets to you first. Then, let us go to God together now, because the most important part of this morning, the prayer itself, is still ahead. So let us pray right now together before this day takes a single step without Him. Father, before I touch anything else this morning, I am turning to you first. Before the phone, before the worry, before the long list of everything waiting for me, I am giving you the first word of this day. Not because I have it all together, but because I do not. And I am tired of pretending I can carry this day on my own strength. I've tried that too many mornings, and I always run dry before noon. So I'm handing it to you now, while it is still quiet, before the noise has a chance to take the wheel. Thank you for this day. Not the day I wish I had, but this one, the real one, with all its unfinished edges and unanswered questions. You made it, and it is a gift, and I do not want to walk through it blind to your goodness. Thank you that your mercies are new this morning, that your grace is enough for whatever this day holds, and that your love for me has not moved an inch, no matter how far from you I have felt lately. Before I ask you for a single thing, I want to stop and remember all the ways you have already been faithful, the prayers you answered that I forgot to thank you for, the disasters that never came, the strength that showed up right when I ran out of my own. You've been good to me, God, over and over, and I do not want to walk into this day acting like I have nothing to be grateful for. Lord, you already know what I'm afraid of today. You know the thing I woke up bracing for, the weight that was sitting on my chest before I was even awake. I am not going to carry it alone one more step. I am handing it to you now. Every fear I was rehearsing, every worst case my mind was building in the dark, I am laying it down at your feet. So much of what I fear will never even happen, and even the parts that do will not come with you absent. Guard my heart and my mind today with a peace I cannot manufacture and do not fully understand. Post your peace at the gate of my thoughts and keep out what should not get in. Show me the way I should go. Order this day the way only you can see it, because you can see all of it, and I can only see the next few steps. Put me in front of the people I am meant to reach, and steady my mouth before I say the thing I would regret. Keep me from the arguments that are not mine to have. Make the crooked places straight before I ever arrive at them. Open the doors you want me to walk through, and gently close the ones I would have forced open on my own. And where I am tempted to lean on my own understanding, pull me back to leaning on you instead, even if I do not notice you doing it. But more than anything I could ask you to fix, I am asking for you. Go with me today. Do not just send help, come yourself. Walk beside me through every hour, through the ones I am dreading and the ones I cannot yet see. Remind me, when the day gets loud and I forget, that I am not alone in any room, not alone in any hard conversation, not alone in any silence. Let me feel the rest that comes not from an easy day, but from your nearness inside a hard one. And on the hours when I feel nothing at all, when you seem far and my prayers seem to hit the ceiling, let me stand on what is true instead of what I feel. You are here. You said you would be, and you do not break your word. Help me believe that even when my heart is too tired to feel it. And when I fail today, because I will fail somewhere, remind me that your mercy will be new again tomorrow, and that there is nothing I can do to run out of it. I will lose my patience. I will forget you for stretches of the day and try to handle things on my own again. When I do not let me spiral into shame. Let me simply turn back to you, the same way I turned to you this morning, and find you still here, still willing, still good. Let me end this day not by scoring how well I performed, but by remembering that you were with me the whole time, holding what I could not hold. I give you this morning. I give you this day. I give you me. Have your way in all of it. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. May the Lord's mercy meet you fresh and full this morning. May His grace be enough for every hour ahead. May His peace stand guard over your heart and mind, and may His presence go with you into everything this day holds, so that you never once have to face it alone. May you carry His nearness the way you carry your own breath, without effort, without earning it, simply because it was given. And may you find, as the hours unfold, that the day you handed to God at sunrise really does feel different from the days you tried to conquer by yourself. Go now, not in your own strength, but in His, and watch what God does with an ordinary day surrendered to Him at the very beginning. He is already in it, waiting for you. Walk into it with Him and do not look back.